Hi guys, it's Ashley and welcome to my first video of 2016. 2015 is behind us and it was a great year of reading for me. I joined a book club which really opened up my reading tastes, and I read some nonfiction while in that book club, a couple of other book club books that ended up being on my favorites list, which is what this video is about. So without further ado, here are my top 15 books in 2015. And I promise I won't do that hand gesture the entire time because otherwise that would be annoying. Number 15 is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and Hollow City by Ransom Riggs. I didn't get a chance to read Library of Souls when it just came out this past fall, so I'm not including that on this list. I am in the middle of it. I lent it to a friend because she really wanted to read it, and so I'm waiting to get it back from her before I finish the book. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and Hollow City were fantastic books. I went in them thinking that they were going to be really creepy reads, and based on the photos I saw in there and the book cover, I really thought it was going to be a really horror-centric YA book. It had creepy elements in it, but it wasn't completely a horror book. It was really like a supernatural book with some young themes and horror themes in it, but it really wasn't horror-centric at all. Nevertheless, it was a fantastic book. It blew me away. It was very interesting, unlike anything I've ever read before, and the incorporation of the pictures in the book was really interesting because it allowed you to visualize these very weird or peculiar scenarios and actually see what they look like. And sometimes that's really nice because when I'm reading a book, I really, am feeling like no matter how much the author is describing it to me, I'm just not quite seeing in my head exactly what the author is picturing or wants me to picture. So this was really awesome. Yeah, it was just fantastic, different book. It really broke away from what I normally read this year, and so that was just awesome. Number 14 was Shadow Kiss by Rochelle Mead, which is the third book of the Vampire Academy series. The reason this book in particular is on this list is because the Vampire Academy in general was a really great standout for me this year. Shadow Kiss was as far as I got in the series. I only read the first 3 books this year, so that's why I just picked the third one. Shadow Kiss left me completely stunned and in a cliffhanger, and I am in emotional torment as we speak thinking about it. I got to know some other characters a lot better though, Christian specifically and his relationship with Rose, and Adrian, who is so swoon-worthy, and some stuff with Rose and Dimitri was awesome. I love Rose and Dimitri. I specifically love Rose Hathaway, and this book just furthered my love of Rose Hathaway. She's one of my book BFFs. It was a roller coaster, pretty much, so it was definitely memorable, to say the least. Number 13 was The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. This is the only memoir that's on my list. It's one of the only memoirs that I actually read this year. This was a book club read, and I am so happy that we picked this up for book club. This was one of those that expanded my taste a little bit, got me outside of my norms, so that was really great. Despite being a nonfiction true story, it reads like it's a fictional book. One, because the stuff that happens to Jeanette is just so captivating and crazy sometimes that you're like, no way did this actually happen to somebody. But it did, and she wrote it out. So the actual stuff that happens in the book plays out like it should be fiction. 2, the way she tells her story is written like fiction. She doesn't simply say, and then this happened to me, and then this happened to me. She really weaves the story going from one place in life to another, going from one location in America to another, and weaving out of talking about different family members, like her sisters or her brother, and her life at school. It just, the way it is, it feels like a stream of consciousness fiction book rather than her just telling her life story. And the third thing that made this feel kind of like a fiction book was how short it was. It's a very short read. If you do end up picking it up, you'll blow through it really fast. I'm absolutely sure of it. And so, yeah, those are basically the 3 biggest reasons why it felt like a fictional book. It was so full. It just was very descriptive, very interesting, very captivating story, and you're really rooting for Jeanette the whole time. And I think Jeanette and her older sister Lori were the 2 people I were rooting for the most, but I was also rooting for their brother and younger sister too. And their parents, like their parents are crazy. I can't believe the crap they pulled on those kids and the places they dredged them through and how selfish they were. If you're looking to get out of YA or fiction, this is great because it's short, it reads fast, and it's different. So I really, really recommend this book. Number 12 was I Am the Messenger by Markus Zusak, which I basically instantly ordered from the library as soon as I saw one of Tilly from Tilly and Her Books book talks. She was talking about some of her favorite young adult contemporary books, and this was on there. It has everything in it, you know, it's got the mystery in it, it's got a little bit of introspection and some love in it, but it's really not love focused at all, and it's got really good character dynamics in it, not just with the main or B characters, but also with like the passing by characters, and it just explores a lot into the nature of people. It was just so interesting. I've never read a plot like this. It's just so cool, and I just love it, and yeah, the whole mystery of it and who's behind making him do all of these things for other people, and how he doesn't like crap out on all of these tasks that he's given. Is he really steps up, and he's like the last person you would expect to step up because he's just got like nothing in life and just doesn't do anything, but really underneath all of that like blah is this really awesome, interesting, brave character. I am astounded by Markus Zusak's ability to tell a story. Number 11 was Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. Amy and Roger's Epic Detour is my favorite of her books. It is about Amy and Roger who are on their way from California to the East Coast because her mom has just moved to the East Coast, and her brother is on his way to meeting them there, but Amy is still stuck in California because she hasn't finished out school yet. So her neighbor Roger offers to drive her from one side of the state to the other since Amy doesn't drive, and we find out why Amy doesn't drive even though she's got a license and everything through the course of the book. It gets really deep into Amy's personality and really deep in her mind. You really feel like you know Amy while reading this book, and Roger is amazing. I love him. He's one of my book boyfriends, hands down. I could spend like a whole video talking about Roger. He's just so sweet, and the way that he doesn't force Amy to open up, but really lets her take her time, and really is like tender with her, but he's got his own stuff going on, but he's just a gentleman, and he's into history, and he's like a nerd about it, and he's got really awesome friends who are good to him, and he's good to them, and he's just a great character, and I really think that more people should read this book and fall in love with him because I've fallen in love with him. But it's so great, and I loved the road trip story. It's not often that I read road trip stories, let alone ones that I like. It was a great look into these two characters and a great dynamic between the two of them. They got along really well and brought out some interesting things about each other, and by the end of it, the way they grow and change and develop is a real pleasure just to have witnessed. So this was a cute book, one of my favorite YA books of the whole year, hands down, and I just adore it. Number 10 is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, which is the first book of the All Souls trilogy. So this book is crazy. I think the reason why it's not higher is because it's so much to take in. It's so incredibly full of information. It's so much. And the characters, Diana, Matthew, all of them, they're so smart and they know so much. So when they're talking and spitting out information that they know, it's just like, why are fictional characters so much smarter than me? This is making me feel really small and stupid. But it was a really, actually, educational book. But it made it really awesome because the main character, Diana Bishop, is really smart, and it's really awesome to read about a strong, smart, like super, super smart female lead. And so that was really great. It has history in it, art, music, supernatural stuff, fantasy stuff, love, action. It's so full that it took a lot to process. It took a long time for me to read, actually, despite the fact that it was captivating and interesting and page-turning, because I felt like I couldn't miss anything. I had to, like, really soak in each word, because if I skipped a word or read, you know, too fast and didn't pace myself, I was going to miss something important. This story is based around Diana Bishop, who is in the middle of studying for school and comes across an alchemy book that's really old, and she accesses it from way deep in the libraries like database and gets it out. Turns out this book is really hard to get. People have been trying for centuries and nobody's been able to, and she did it accidentally, looked at like 2 pages and then let the book go back into collections, and everyone's freaking out. They're like, how'd you get this book? What's in it? This is the book that explains all of life. So basically, I read supernatural creatures after her. It's a really great twist on everything supernatural related and everything fantasy related, and it's just amazing with great characters who are well developed, a well-developed world, and an outstanding job of writing, and that is why it's fantastic and it's on my list. Number 9 is Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys. It's a young adult historical fiction book set in New Orleans, which was really cool to read about New Orleans. I've never read a book that is set there before, so that was incredibly interesting to read about. I just really loved the combination of realistic dialogue and realistic universe and incredibly detailed characters who are fully fleshed out and are very in tune with themselves and are very good at expressing themselves. I loved that it wasn't centered around love, it was centered around self-reflection and self-discovery and really coming to terms with who you are and really making sure you know who that is and you plow through in life and overcoming family issues and issues with like your past, which I can relate to because I have kind of a bad past, and so it's nice to read about somebody who's overcome that and has overcome the boundaries and obstacles that life has thrown at her. So I really related to that, and I think that's a big part of why I loved this book. Number 8 is Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. There was something about not only reading about movie making and the movie industry itself and making sets and stuff, that was a really cool, you know, thing to dive into in a book, but it also has a queer female protagonist, and that was really refreshing to read about. And there wasn't anything crazy in this book. It was just a book about her graduating and meeting a person and being interested in them and their life and connecting with them. Like, there was nothing crazy in this book. It was just a book about being, and it was very refreshing. It was so nice and so well written and just good. I loved all the characters. I loved all of the writing. I loved, you know, the way the story progressed. I really just loved all of it interwoven together. I have nothing bad to say about this book, and yeah, it was just really great. Number 7 is the Peregrine and the End of Days series by Susan E. I, yes, am putting the entire trilogy on this list because how the hell am I supposed to put just one when they're all one story? Like, I can't do that. This book is about Peregrine Young, who is in the end of days. Angels have come and taken over the earth, and it is apocalypse and craziness and madness and rage and fire and destruction. In the beginning of the book, like within 7 pages, her sister Paige gets taken by some angels, and they fight with this other angel who we learn is Rafi, and she ends up teaming up with Rafi to go find her sister and get him back to the angels. Peregrine is one of my favorite female characters I've read this year, maybe ever. She's strong, she kicks ass, she is not super awesome with words, she's not like super quick and witty like every freaking female character is. I've talked about this before about Peregrine in another video, and I just have nothing but good things to say about her. I also love Rafi. I love Rafi a lot, like probably too much. Can you really love Rafi too much though? I don't think you can. Super snarky, he is so full of himself, and he's so freaking just spoon-worthy. Their relationship is hilarious, their back and forth is so funny, it makes me laugh out loud. The action does not stop in these books. You pick it up and right from the beginning, it's go time. And it doesn't stop until the end of the series. And it just, like, you find that within 7 hours you finish all 3 books and you're like, what do I do now? Nothing. You do nothing but cry. That's what you do. Despite all these emotions that you are going to feel, you should still read this book, because what's better in a book than having it make you go through emotional turmoil? Nothing. That's what we want out of books. Don't lie to yourself. Number 6 is Eighth Grave After Dark by Dorinda Jones, which is the 6th book of the Charlie Davidson series, which I will tell you in every one of my videos to go read, because it is fantastic. Charlie Davidson is everything you want out of a female lead. She's hilarious, she's smart, she's the Grim Reaper, she's sexy, she is not taking any bullshit from anybody, and is the best person you'll ever read about ever. This book in particular has a cliffhanger that I can't tell you because it's 8 books into it, and so if I told you the cliffhanger, you would know about all the shit that happens between book 1 and 8. It's about Charlie Davidson, she's the Grim Reaper, and Reyes. They're together, and they're sexy, and they're amazing, and she's also a PI, so she solves crimes using her ghost buddies who travel through her once they die, and have fulfilled their afterlife needs and wishes. It's amazing. It's just fantastic, and this book was, like, I can't stop thinking about this book. I read it a month ago, and I'm still thinking about what happened. And I'm not okay. Number 5 is Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine. This book is outstanding. I read it for book club, and again, probably wouldn't have picked it up if it weren't for book club, so thank goodness that club happened this year. It's a historical young adult novel that takes place in World War II. It centers around Queenie and Maddie, who are part of the Allied forces, and they both work for the Air Force. Maddie's a pilot, and Queenie is like a transmitter of messages. The name for it specifically is lost to me right now, so I apologize. Maddie is piloting Queenie somewhere, and their plane crashes, and Queenie is abducted by the Nazis, and this book is written while she's abducted, and she's writing letters, and that in of itself makes it unreliable, because not only is it her point of view, her very personal point of view, but she has like Nazis over her shoulder breathing down her neck, so completely unreliable. This book just like stands out on its own. I think it should be like required reading. It's amazing. It is a fantastic way to tell a story. It has amazing teenage female leads who are incredibly strong, incredibly like sure of themselves and brave and wonderful, and their friendship is just like something to strive for. They have an amazing friendship, and we need more female empowerment books like this. It's so great. But the plot itself has all of these things that happen in it that you are so not going to expect. So like, as if the characters themselves weren't enough to make you cry, this plot will definitely make you cry. And it's probably one of the most cry-worthy books I read this year. I can think of maybe like one other book that I cried more while reading this whole year. So pick it up and read it. Number 4 is I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This book is just fantastic. It is colorful and artistic and well done, and has very deep characters that are more than just interesting. They're like very reflective and well-rounded. And it's about Noah and Jude, who are twins, but they have this rift that happens that separates them. And half the book is told from Noah's point of view while they're children, and half of it is told by Jude when they're teenagers. And this book spends its time focusing on that rift and what happened to drive them apart. But it's more than that. It's about just them learning about themselves and who they are and who other people are, and that they need to be okay with themselves and those other people. And it's just about love and how to love everyone and be accepting, and it's just amazing. Like, Noah and Jude themselves are incredible. When they're kids, they're so like just these little shits that have the funniest things to say, but they're very smart for their age. And their parents, while aren't the best people, are very good characters, and the development every character goes through, be it Jude, Noah, or their respective love interests, every character goes through a lot and is incredibly well-rounded and has a very interesting like character arc. So yeah, it's just great. I can't help but gush about it. I find it very hard to talk about and write about and review about, because like I know I love it, but I can't quite express why. And yeah, I'm kind of having that issue right now, actually. But it's just amazing. Just trust me. Pick it up, read it. It's just like the story itself doesn't need anything more. It's so well done, and like I said, complete, that by the end of it you're like, yeah, that was good. Number 3 is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Olire Saenz. This book should just win all of the awards. It needs like 1,000 awards. It's so good. It's about Ari and Dante, these 2 teenage boys who are from Mexican-American families. They meet over the summer at a pool, and Ari is very like, wears his emotions on his sleeve and is very emotional and upfront about things, whereas Dante is incredibly reserved and like grumpy and moody almost. So they're not the same at all, but they have a great relationship that really like pulls at each other and really lets them find all the parts of themselves that they didn't even know were there. It's a very introspective novel. It's really about like learning how to be in a relationship, be it love, family, friendship, all of them. And it does it so well. You spend the whole book with Dante, and he himself is discovering how to learn about himself. So while you're learning about him, like, he's also learning about him. And it's just beautiful. I just love it so much. Ari and Dante are great characters. They go together very well. They fit very nicely. They bounce off each other in a wonderful way, and it's just well written and all around beautiful. Number 2 is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven, which has a very dear and near place in my heart. It's very close to home because my mom has bipolar disorder, and one of the main characters, Finch, also suffers from mental illness. And so not only reading about him and getting into his life was really important, because his point of view is like erratic and doesn't always make sense and is kind of scary at times, but very profound and very important, I feel like. And Violet I attached to right away because she, while going through her own stuff, her sister had recently passed away, and she's kind of grieving with that still and learning how to come to terms with it and get past it. She is the one who I relate to because she is in the relationship with this person with the mental illness, trying to reach out to them, understand them, help them, get them better, but she doesn't always have the tools to do it. And I know from firsthand experience that that is a very, like, heartbreaking, frustrating, like, antagonizingly horrible thing, because you just want to help, you need to help, but you can't always do it. Sometimes you just have to wait for the other person to discover what they need on their own instead, which is a scary and sometimes dangerous process, but you can only do so much sometimes. So I really related to Violet. I really liked both Violet and Finch, and the way their relationship progressed, it felt very natural, very good. They both have their own interests. They're both very quotable. They have a lot of life quotes that I feel like I could actually put in my life, and I want to put in my life. I should apply to my life, and I do. It's very, like, when I was reading it, I was highlighting it in all these places and writing in it and putting sticky notes in it. It's like all tattered up now because I've read it so many times since then. Yeah, I love them both respectively and together, and yeah, if I talk about it anymore, I'll probably get emotional. So I'm not going to, but please just read it. It means a lot to me, and I think it would mean a lot to you too. And the number one book of 2015. I'm really bad at drum rolls. This is like the 3rd time I've tried to do a drum roll in a video and I failed. Number 1 book is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Yay! Woohoo! This book I read like a long time ago. I read it in January of 2015, and it has surpassed all the books the entire year. It was the first book I read, and every book since then has not been as good. Like, that's how much it sticks out to me. It's just beautiful. I'm sure everybody has heard about it already. So the basic plots about it is, it's about Celia and Marco, who both have the gift of magic. Marco learns from book learning from a tutor. Celia learns from her father, hands-on, and they make this night circus that is a showcase of their magic and a place for them to battle their magic and see whose is better and which way of learning magic is better. And Celia and Marco end up together, and it's an enchanting, beautiful relationship. They connect on so many amazing levels, like emotionally and physically and spiritually and mentally. The way they connect and make sense is exquisite. And all of, like, the B and C characters are all fantastic, and the Night Circus itself, it needs to be real. I want it to be happening in real life because it's beautiful, and the plot is just like plot on plot on plot. It's just like this circle of circles on top of each other that interweaves in a really magical way. It's just beautiful. That's all I have to say about it, because what else do you need to know? It's number 1 for 2015, guys. Number 1. What else do you need to know? Nothing. And that's it. Those are my top 15 books of 2015. Let me know what you guys think, if you disagree, if you agree, and what were your top 15 books of 2015. And here is to a great year of reading in 2016. Happy reading.